Thank you, Jenny. We will discuss three types of exemptions. The first one dealing with fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are nutrient dense, and most children do not consume the recommended amounts. To be consistent with both the dietary guidelines and the Institute of Medicine's recommendations, the interim final rule includes an exemption to the standards for certain fruits and veggies. The fruit and vegetable exemption includes fresh, frozen, and canned fruit packed in water, 100% juice, light syrup, or extra light syrup. Fresh, frozen, and canned vegetables with no added ingredients except for water. Or canned vegetables that contain a small amount of sugar for processing purposes in order to maintain the quality and structure of the vegetable. Also, combinations of fresh, frozen, or canned fruits and vegetables are also exempt from all the nutrient standards as long as there are no added ingredients except for water. Some examples of this would include fresh salsa made from tomatoes, onions, and garlic with no other ingredients. Also, fruit salad made up of only fresh, frozen, or canned fruits would be another example. Remember, fresh fruits and veggies are allowable as is. There is no measuring or calculating involved. They are the perfect low-maintenance snack options. All right. The second exemption pertains to entrees. Any entree item offered as part of the lunch program or the breakfast program is exempt from all competitive food standards if it is sold as a competitive food on the day of service or the day after service in the lunch or breakfast program. For example, an entree served on a Friday for a reimbursable meal would be exempt from all competitive food standards on that day and also be exempt on the following Monday, as that is the next school day. This approach supports the concept of school meals being healthful while providing flexibility to program operators in planning leftovers. Exempt entrees that are sold as competitive food must be offered in the same or smaller portion sizes as the NSLP and SPP and with the same accompaniments. As we mentioned earlier, school food authorities are permitted to determine which items are the entree items for breakfast offered as part of SPP. This includes grade-only entree items served for school breakfast. The items that are determined to be entree items at breakfast are exempt from all competitive food standards if sold as a competitive food on the day of or the day after service in the breakfast program. For example, if a school serves whole grain rich pancakes as the main dish for breakfast, then they can be considered an entree and be exempt from the standards on the day of and the day after they are served. Please keep in mind, exempt entrees must be offered with the same accompaniments. In this example, it would be syrup and the same or smaller portions as in the Also, items served daily as part of the reimbursable meal, for example, some schools serve pizza or cheeseburgers every day as part of the reimbursable lunch, are then exempt from Smart Snack standards. It is very important to note that any side dishes sold a la carte must meet all Smart Snack standards because exemptions only for entree items served in the reimbursable meal on that day or the day after. Because side dishes sold a la carte must meet the standards, food service managers will want to consider the need to train staff on identifying which side dishes are allowable to be sold a la carte to students, as well as educating students on which items may or may not be available for purchase. Our last exemption is chewing gum. Sugar-free chewing gum is exempt from all the competitive food standards as well. Individual schools and districts have a discretion not to sell sugar-free gum to their students if they choose. Okay, so we just went through the general standards and the specific nutrient standards for competitive foods, and we know it can seem very overwhelming. For many people, seeing things in the form of a flowchart can be very helpful. So we are including in our handouts today a set of flowcharts that have been adapted by PDE from resources developed by the Colorado Department of Education. The first one is for competitive food items, and it walks us step by step through the process of identifying allowable foods under the new standards. We are going to keep the general and nutrient standards that we just discussed in our minds while we use this flowchart to go through to see if our food item can be sold. Okay. So let's go through an example using the flowchart and the required product information. Our item is a granola bar that we want to sell in a school store. We will start at the upper left-hand corner below the diamond shape that says Start Here and read through the first box. The first box asks, will the food item be sold on the school campus during the school day? Our item will be sold, which meets criteria 1, on the school campus at the school store, which meets criteria 2, and during the school day, which meets criteria 3. Because we answered yes to all 3 of these, we follow the yes arrow to our next box. Our next box asks, is the food item a side item sold a la carte, or is it a snack item? Yes, our granola bar is a snack item sold in the school store, so we will follow the yes arrow to the next box. This box asks, does the food item meet the Smart Snacks and School General Standards? Remember, an item must meet one of the 4 general standard criteria. As a review, they are be a whole grain rich product, or contain one of the other major food groups as the first ingredient, including a fruit, vegetable, dairy product, or protein food, or be a combination food with at least 1/4 cup fruit and or vegetable, or contain 10% of the daily value of one nutrient of public health concern Jenny discussed earlier. In order to answer this question, we need to take a look at our ingredients label. On this slide, you'll see our ingredients label to our granola bar. Remember, the first general food standard starts with be a grain product that contains 50% or more whole grains by weight, or have whole grains as the first ingredient. So taking a look at our ingredients, we see that the first ingredient is whole grain oats. In this case, it was pretty easy to determine that our product meets the general food standard. So we are going to head back to our flow chart. Since our food item meets the general standard, we follow the arrow for yes across to the next box, which asks if the food item, including accompaniments, meets the nutrient standards. Our item doesn't have any accompaniments, so we take the information straight from our label to check each one. Remember, the food item must meet all 6 of the nutrient standards in order to be sold as a competitive food. All right. We can go 3 of these specific nutrient standards very easily, simply by checking the numbers on our label. We see that we have 140 calories in our granola bar. This passes because it is a snack item and must not exceed 200 calories. We see that we have 0 grams trans fat, which is what the item must have in order to be allowable under Smart Snacks. And we also see that we have 65 milligrams of sodium in this granola bar. This passes because the current limit on sodium is 230 per snack or side item, and please remember that this will change to 200 milligrams per snack or side item on July 1st, 2016. Okay, so now we need to do our calculations for the remaining 3 nutrients. We will do them for percent of calories from total fat and saturated fat, and then the percent of sugar by weight. Our first calculation is total fat. We take 35 calories, which is the amount of calories from fat in our item. We divide that by 140 calories, the total number of calories in our product, and we multiply by 100 to get 25%. We see that this does meet the fat standard because it's below 35%. Because this item passes using this method, we do not need to do our second calculation. Our second calculation is for percent of calories from saturated fat. We take 0.5 grams, which is the amount of grams of saturated fat in our product. We multiply that by 9 calories because it's the amount of calories in 1 gram of fat. Divide that by 140 calories, and we multiply that by 100 to get our percentage. Our answer is 3.2%. Because that falls below 10%, our item meets the saturated fat standard. Finally, we need to calculate the percent of sugar by weight. We take 12 grams because it's the amount of sugar in our product. We divide that by the weight of the product, or 35 grams, and we multiply that by 100 to get 34%. Our product is not more than 35% sugar by weight, so it meets the sugar requirement. It looks like this granola bar passes all 6 of our nutrient standards, so we'll head back to our flow chart to see how we're doing. Okay. Our item meets all of the nutrient standards as well, so we follow the yes arrow down to the oval and see that our item is allowable. Okay, this is your chance to take a deep breath. As promised, we have great news for those of you who are feeling a bit overwhelmed with calculations and flowcharts right about now. There is a USDA-approved, user-friendly online Smart Snacks calculator developed by the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. At the end of this presentation, we have the link for the calculator listed on all of the resources available to you on PAIR's download forms under Smart Snacks in School. One of the things that PD has heard from some of you is that the profit margin may be lower for some of the items that meet the new standards, and there are also some who have mentioned concerns about potential effects on their breakfast numbers with the new requirements. We do want to mention that manufacturers are aware of the required changes and are working to provide items compliant with Smart Snacks regulations. We certainly encourage you to communicate with your vendors if you are not already doing so that you can become aware of options that are currently available and options that will become available to you in the future. We know many of you are doing taste testing with some of these new products, and you guys are pleasantly surprised that there are items that your students do like. We are including resources on the final slide that provide links for known products that meet the new standards, which may save you some time. So this screen that you see shows the first screen that you will see when you enter your information into the calculator. It will take you through a series of questions, and you will enter information from the nutrition label on your product. Okay. A very nice feature of this calculator is that it gives you the option of printing out the results to keep along with your records and product labels. This screenshot shows the screen you get when your product is compliant with the standards. You can then enter the name of your product in the boxes and hit the next step button, and you will see this nice page listing your results along with the product name that you entered and the nutrition information. We recommend using the online calculator and printing this final page to keep along with your other documentation records like product labels in some type of binder or electronic file. Okay, and this last screenshot shows you what comes up when your product is not compliant. You will see the calculator tells you the reason as well. The product we entered was not compliant because sugar exceeded 35% by weight. Okay, now we're moving on to beverages. Okay, the standards for beverages are structured a little differently than the standards for foods. The standards for beverages vary by grade level, and they specifically identify the types and maximum portion sizes of beverages allowed. Allowable beverages for all grade levels include water, milk, and juice in serving sizes appropriate for age and grade levels. There are also additional allowances for beverage options at the high school level. Finally, there are no restrictions on the sale of allowable beverages at any grade level during the school day anywhere on the school campus. This includes in the cafeteria during the meal service time. All right, and this chart here summarizes the beverages allowable for all grades. As a reminder, grade levels include elementary school, which includes grades K through 5, middle school, 6 through 8, and high school, 9 through 12. Plain water may be sold to all students without limits on size. This includes the addition of plain carbonated water with no added ingredients. USDA has clarified that some bottled waters have added minerals for taste, including fluoride and others, and that this is acceptable. However, no other additives such as natural or other flavors or sweeteners are allowed for carbonated water sold to students in elementary or middle schools. Unflavored low-fat milk and unflavored or flavored non-fat milk may be sold in up to 8-ounce servings in elementary school and up to 12 ounces for middle and high school students. This standard includes nutritionally equivalent milk alternatives as permitted in the school meal programs. Finally, 100% fruit and or vegetable juice may be sold. The interim final rule also allows the addition of 100% juice diluted with water, as USDA recognizes that diluted juice provides a lower calorie and nutritious beverage option. These products could be carbonated or not carbonated, but they must not include any added sweeteners or other additives, only 100% juice and water. For elementary schools, the maximum serving size for juice is 8 ounces, and for middle and high school, the maximum serving size is 12 ounces. Okay, now we're going to focus a little bit on high school. In recognition of the wide range of beverages available to high school students in the broader marketplace and the increased independence these older students have in making consumer choices, the rule provides additional beverage choices for high school students. USDA went for a reasonable approach to provide high school students a broader range of choices while still limiting those choices to more nutrient-dense and/or lower-calorie options. Therefore, the following beverages are allowed in high school. Calorie-free, flavored and/or unflavored water with or without carbonation must be no greater than 20 fluid ounces. Other calorie-free beverages with less than 5 calories per 8 fluid ounces or less than or equal to 10 calories per 20 fluid ounces. Some products fitting this category may include flavored waters, carbonated or uncarbonated waters, enhanced waters, vitamin or nutrient waters, or other similar beverages. Also allowable in high schools are lower calorie beverages containing up to 60 calories per 12 ounces or up to 40 calories per 8 ounces and served in a maximum serving size of 12 ounces. There are many options available in the current marketplace that meet these standards at this time, such as lower calorie sports drinks and lower calorie tea or lemonade beverages. All right, caffeine. The interim final rule specifies that only caffeine-free foods and beverages be allowed for elementary and middle school students. However, the rule includes an exemption for foods and beverages that contain trace amounts of naturally occurring caffeine substances, such as chocolate milk. Because there is no formal authoritative standard for caffeine consumption at this time, USDA felt it was not appropriate to set such a standard. While the FDA has not set a daily caffeine limit for children, it has recently announced it will investigate the safety of caffeine in food products, particularly its effects on children and adolescents. Given this lack of scientific recommendations with regard to caffeine consumption for children at this time, the interim final rule does not prohibit caffeine or any specific products containing caffeine for high school students. However, USDA and PDE encourage schools to be mindful of the level of caffeine in food and beverages when selecting products to sell. USDA will continue to monitor research and recommendations on caffeine in children as they develop their final rule. All right. As we had for foods, we've also adapted a beverage flowchart resource from CDE and provided it in the handouts that go along with this webinar. We will now go through an example using the beverage flowchart to demonstrate how it can be useful in determining whether a specific beverage is allowable or not under Smart Snacks. For our example, we want to find out if a flavored water beverage is acceptable to sell in the cafeteria during lunch in our high school building. Again, we start at the upper left-hand corner below the diamond that says Start Here and move down to the first box that asks us, will the beverage be sold on the school campus during the school day? As with the food, the item must meet all 3 criteria for yes. The flavored water will be sold, which meets criteria 1, on the school campus, criteria 2, and it will be sold during the school day, which meets criteria 3. Our answer is yes to all 3, so we proceed down the yes arrow to the next box. Our next box asks, is the beverage sold one of the following? Is it plain water, unflavored low-fat milk, unflavored or flavored fat-free milk, 100% fruit or vegetable juice, or 100% fruit or vegetable juice diluted with water and no added sweeteners? Flavored water does not fit into any of these categories, so we follow the no arrow to the center box. The next box asks, is the beverage sold at a high school? Our item will be sold to the high school students during lunch in the cafeteria, so our answer is yes. Next, we follow the yes arrow to the large box on the right. It asks if the beverage sold is classified as an other flavored and or carbonated beverage, and then it goes into the specific serving size and calorie requirements. Our item does fit this category as a flavored beverage, so we now need to check our label for the serving size. We see here that our beverage comes in a 16.9-ounce bottle with just one serving, so we can go back to the flow chart and see what the calorie requirements are for this item to be allowable. Based on the item size of 16.9 ounces, we need to look at the standards shown under the first bullet point because the category includes drinks up to 20 ounces. This is shown in the shaded oval on the slide. For our item to meet the calorie requirements, it must contain less than 5 calories per 8-ounce container or up to 10 calories per 20-ounce container. Let's take another look at our label to see if it's allowable. Our label shows that the item as served contains 5 calories in a 16.9-ounce serving. So, looking at the box in the flow chart again, we see that a beverage containing less than 5 calories in an 8-ounce container is allowable. So our item containing 5 calories in a 16.9-ounce container meets the standard. So since our answer is yes, we follow our yes arrow down. And we see that our flavored water is allowable under the Smart Snacks standards. Once more, we recommend using the online Smart Snacks calculator for determining if your competitive food and beverages are compliant with the nutrition standards, and then printing out the information to keep with your records. That link is provided at the end of the webinar and is also posted on Pairs. Okay, so that concludes the beverage portion of the presentation. We'll now go on to fundraisers. A fundraiser is considered an event that includes an activity in which currency, tokens, or tickets are exchanged for the purchase of a product in support of the school or school-related activity. Examples of fundraisers include things such as bake sales and candy bar sales. Another example would be giving away food, but suggesting a donation since funds are raised as a result. Food fundraisers taking place during the school day on the school campus must meet Smart Snacks and school nutrition standards. This means that the sale of food items that meet the nutrition requirements, as well as the sale of non-food items at fundraisers, would not be limited in any way under the interim final rule. In addition, the nutrition standards would not apply during non-school hours, on weekends, and at off-campus fundraising events such as concessions during sporting events and school plays. We are currently awaiting guidance from USDA pertaining to vending machines where the profits are used to support a school-sponsored club or activity such as the school band or football team. This topic was mentioned in question number 20 in Memo SP 23-2014, dated March 5th, which is a Q&A about Smart Snacks. PDE will make you aware of how USDA plans to handle this specific fundraising situation once we hear it from them. So what about fundraisers? The interim final rule gives state agencies the discretion to provide exemptions for a limited number of infrequent fundraisers that sell foods that do not meet the nutrition standards. PDE, Division of Food and Nutrition, will make a policy decision establishing the number of exempt fundraisers that may be held during the school year. In order to make an informed policy decision, PDE is surveying schools about the frequency of fundraisers that occurred or will occur as of July 1st of this year that would not meet the Smart Snack standards. Please take a moment to read the memo on Pairs and complete the very brief survey using the link provided if you have not already done so. This decision will be made by July 1st and announced to all SNP sponsors. It is good to remember that if exempt fundraising frequency standards are established by PDE, they will be minimum standards. Should local schools or districts choose to establish additional standards that are stricter than those established by the state, they may do so. In other words, a stricter standard, such as allowing only non-food fundraisers at school, would be permissible. If LEAs decide to utilize the exempt fundraiser allowance, determining how best to distribute those fundraisers among various groups within schools will be a consideration they will have to make. In order to prevent the sale of foods that do not meet the nutrition standards in direct competition with the reimbursable meals, any exempted fundraisers would be prohibited in the food service area during the school lunch and breakfast meal service times. For example, it would be unacceptable to conduct an exempt fundraiser selling candy bars, lollipops, or baked goods in the food service areas of the school during the service of breakfast or lunch. And just to reiterate from the previous slide, food fundraisers that do meet the Smart Snack standards can be sold anywhere on campus and at any time. Schools can add a time and place restriction as part of their local wellness policy if they choose. Okay, on to our last section of the Smart Snacks in School presentation. Let's now turn our attention to some administrative considerations, including record keeping and monitoring requirements. All right, record keeping. USDA wants stakeholders to understand that these competitive food standards apply to all foods sold throughout the day at all of the venues available in a school. This means that all parts of the school involved with selling food to students during the school day will have a role in meeting these requirements, not just the school food authority and cafeteria staff. How this actually happens will vary from one district to the next. At a minimum, the rule anticipates that local educational agencies will need to ensure that receipts, nutrition labels, or product specifications are maintained by those designated as responsible for competitive food service at the various venues in the school. School food authorities will be responsible for maintaining records for competitive foods sold under the auspices of the nonprofit school food service account. Local educational agencies would maintain records for all other competitive food sales. Some may choose to use a binder system to maintain their hard copies, possibly using one binder for foods and another for beverages. Others may opt for an electronic file system to organize their records. It is up to the school food authority to decide what works best for their operation. The interim final rule discusses the issue of responsibility for the maintenance of records at some length. Basically, sorting through who is responsible for maintaining records of competitive foods may be challenging at first, and USDA suggests that local school wellness policy designees could prove very useful in assisting in the development of a simple and reasonable record-keeping system for competitive food sales in schools. As with all other child nutrition program requirements, state agencies will be responsible for monitoring compliance with the requirements of the competitive food nutrition standards through periodic reviews of local educational agency records and operations. At this time, USDA sees technical assistance and training as the first approach to noncompliance with the standards upon their review. However, repeated cases of noncompliance may require a more aggressive approach. A proposed rulemaking to revise the requirements for state agency review and oversight of LEA participation in the school meal programs will be published in the future, as well as a proposed rule on child nutrition program integrity. The public will be encouraged to comment on both of those proposed rules, including how those requirements may or may not apply to the competitive food standards before final rules are established. USDA envisions LEA designees, rather than school food service staff, taking the lead in training all local educational agency personnel involved with selling competitive foods on the new requirements, as well as monitoring implementation and ensuring those personnel are properly implementing the new rules. Okay, as you know, the Smart Snacks nutrition standards are required to be implemented on July 1st of this year. We already, of course, mentioned that there is no one-year waiver. We want to remind you that the express purpose of publishing an interim final rule is to ensure that there is opportunity for continued dialogue as implementation of the Smart Snacks requirements proceeds and issues are identified and evaluated. USDA's intent is to monitor these issues as they arise so that they may respond in real time to such issues. Your feedback will also help USDA determine whether additional modifications to the requirements are needed. Once you are implementing Smart Snacks, you are welcome to keep a log of your comments, suggestions, and concerns, and when USDA requests feedback from us, we will then request comments from you. Okay. Many food service directors are trying to think outside the box as they consider implementing the Smart Snack standards. We'll start with a question that we were recently asked regarding the idea of offering a food item for free with the purchase of another food or non-food item. For example, giving a free cookie with the purchase of a pencil at the school store, or offering fries free with the purchase of an a la carte entree. Based upon question 26 in the Q&A that USDA has recently published, only foods that are provided to the student free of any charge or contribution, or the exchange of tokens or tickets of any sort, are exempt. In the case of buy one, get one free, there is a cost involved in purchasing an item in order to receive an additional item. So therefore, the item is not truly offered without cost or contribution by the student.